Because when you really, hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. And listen, I know that all of you are probably sick and tired of hearing me talk about sunscreen, but today we're going to talk about sunscreen again, so I apologize. It's something that I am very passionate about, and I think that we need to know how to use it, that we should be using it, what kind of sunscreens are good for you and good for the environment and things like that. So today I wanted to talk about how much sunscreen you actually need to be using, and also when to reapply, because I think that those are subjects that people get really iffy on, and they don't really do them properly, and so they're not actually getting adequate sun protection, which is very important that we all do get adequate sun protection so that we're protected against skin cancer and aging and so on and so on. So today I wanted to talk about how much you need to use and also how often you need to reapply your sunscreen. So starting off, when it comes to how much sunscreen you really should be using, when sunscreens are tested and formulated and approved by the FDA, they're tested at a concentration of 2 milligrams per centimeter squared in order to get to the SPF label that's on the bottle of your sunscreen. So say you use an SPF 50 sunscreen and you're only using a teeny tiny amount, you're probably getting in the range of SPF 10 to 15. And that is why dermatologists will tell you use a sunscreen that's SPF 30 or above, because it is known that most of the population grossly underapplies sunscreen, and it is very difficult to get adequate application and to actually fully cover your face without skip areas at a concentration of 2 milligrams per centimeter squared, because you just really don't know where skip areas are. Having that much sunscreen on your face can feel very heavy, so having a higher SPF can prevent you not having adequate sun protection. When we look at SPF labels that are already labeled as an SPF 15, things like moisturizers with sunscreen in them that are at an SPF 15 or 20, and you're applying too little, you're really only getting about SPF 3 to 6, and that's the range that we don't want to be in. Because when you really think about it, the SPF doesn't really differ that much in how much protection you're getting. At an SPF of 30, you're getting 95% protection, and at an SPF of 50, you're getting 98. So it doesn't differ that much, but when you're under applying, it does make a difference, if that makes any sense. So like I said, SPF should be, or sunscreen in general, should be applied at a concentration of 2 milligrams per centimeter squared. And what that equals out to is about half a teaspoon for your face and neck, but that's leaving out the back of your neck, your ears, behind your ears, and things like that. So what I generally do is I'll take about a dime to a nickel sized amount, about a nickel sized amount, and I will apply that first layer, and then I'll go in with a second layer of the same amount and apply that to avoid any skip areas or things like that, because I think that that's about enough sunscreen for how much you should be using. I don't really use measuring spoons. I just kind of know that I apply a lot more sunscreen than the general population out there, and so that is something that we should all be doing though. So the amount of sunscreen that you use really does matter if you want to get the proper SPF labeling that was on your sunscreen bottle. So when it comes to reapplying sunscreen, this is something that if you read a sunscreen bottle, it'll say reapply every 80 minutes, reapply every 2 hours, or it'll tell you how often to reapply, and it'll also say apply directly after towel drying, because these sunscreen manufacturers are assuming that you're going to be wearing sunscreen when you're outside in direct sunlight. So yes, when you are outside in direct sunlight, you need to reapply your sunscreen every 2 hours. And if you're super pale and you're in like California or Florida sun, you should probably reapply every hour. If you're in Hawaii sun, you need to reapply even more frequently than that, because that sun is like no other, because it's just I guess they're closer to the equator or something. I don't really know, but I know that people in Hawaii, if they've never gone there, they burn like a crisp. So if you are in direct sunlight and your body is not used to being in direct sunlight, make sure that you are very diligent about your reapplication. However, we do still need to reapply throughout the day, even if we're just inside, because UVA rays can come through window glass, and that is something that a lot of people don't think about, because when you look at the UV index, that's only measuring UVB. When you look at the SPF label on your bottle, that's only measuring UVB, things like that. We only ever are aware of UVB, but UVA is what causes premature photoaging. It's what causes a lot of skin cancers, and so we need to be aware of how often we're reapplying sunscreen, even when we're inside. I always say that a general rule of thumb is just make sure that you've applied sunscreen at least 3 times in a day if you're only going to be inside. So that measures out to about every 4-ish hours. So what I do is I apply in the morning, and then sometimes if I take a really long time to get ready in the morning, I'll reapply before putting on makeup. That doesn't always happen, but I almost always reapply when I have lunch. So my lunch break at work is another really good time to reapply sunscreen. And then when I come home from work, it is still light outside. However, I do shower and I'm washing it off, so I reapply it before, or like right after I get out of the shower, and that's my 3rd application of the day, and then about 2 hours later it's dark. So, you know, it's really simple to get those sunscreen applications in, and it's not something that's super difficult to think about. When you're outside a lot, it is something that you really need to actively be thinking about, because I know that when I'm swimming at the beach, I'm not thinking about reapplying my sunscreen, and I need to get better at that. Another thing that I did want to mention before I close out this video is there is a difference in protection slightly between mineral sunscreens and chemical sunscreens, and if you want to know everything about that, I do have a video about mineral versus chemical sunscreens that you can go watch. But essentially, the only UVA protection that we have here in US chemical sunscreens is avobenzone, and that sunscreen ingredient degrades when exposed to light and air, and so our UVA protection begins to degrade as soon as we put the sunscreen on. So chemical sunscreens here in the US really do have to be reapplied more frequently. You have to make sure that you're applying them a lot more diligently, make sure that you're getting every area a lot more actively. And so when it comes to a mineral sunscreen, you don't have to worry as much about it. You should still be reapplying it because you sweat throughout the day, you run around, it washes off of your face through just daily activities. You might rub your eyes, things like that. So it can come off of your face still, but zinc oxide is what we use for UVA protection in a mineral sunscreen, and that doesn't degrade quite as readily as avobenzone. So keep that in mind if you are a diehard fan of chemical sunscreens. Your UVA protection is degrading as every single minute goes by, and you really need to be aware of that and make sure that you are reapplying sunscreen slightly more often than you would with a mineral sunscreen. So that's really all that I have to say on this topic, you guys. I hope that you guys found it helpful and a little bit informative, because I know that a lot of us really do not apply enough sunscreen. A lot of us don't reapply at all. So I hope that it was helpful to you guys. If it was, please give it a big thumbs up. If you would like to watch my last video, you can go ahead and click right over here. And if you would like to subscribe to my channel, which I urge all of you to do, you should do that because we have fun here. You can go ahead and click right over here, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.